technology. But thank you so much. Captioning is working. Okay, I just can't see the comments. Okay, so that's going to be how we roll. But what I did was, because I posted about going live this morning after seeing quite a few questions, and we've been getting a few questions and comments back on the Hawaii trip over the weekend in the Reg box and my inbox, that kind of thing. I posted about going live, put that post up earlier today. So I have quite a few notes to go over, which I hope will answer all of the questions. And since I can't see the comments, Aaron and Jill, if you're watching, just feel free to text me so that I don't miss anything. But first and foremost, I just want to say congratulations to those of you who are on track, who have already achieved. The numbers of people that are on track are pretty amazing. And let me just say quickly, that's why we did a survey on that email that you received last Friday. Just taking a look at the achiever list and the on-track list compared to how many hotel rooms that we had contracted at the Hilton Waikoloa, something wasn't adding up. So we needed to make sure that we knew where you stood. So sending the information in regards to, look, we're going on the trip. Those that can join us, are you going to join us? Asking some of those questions, it helped us to start making our plans. We wanted to get that feedback starting today, by today, so that we could get back in touch with the hotel and adjust our contract and maybe add rooms if we needed that. If you replied yes and you decide when we open registration that you are no longer going to go, you're not locked in, the survey was not your final answer. When you actually go through the registration system and say, yes, I can attend and I'm going to register, or no, I must decline, that is your final answer. And then even then you have until the cancellation deadline of May 4th. So let's just talk through that. And again, I'll just keep an eye here on my phone. In regards to any questions that come up that I'm not able to see. So thank you, girls, for texting me and messaging me about how to use the technology. I really wanted to try to use the captioning today, so that's the point. So here's the thing: we are going to Hawaii. SeneStar Hawaii 2021 is happening, and we know that travel restrictions are different right now for every single country, and we also can assume that those restrictions may change. So all we can do is plan based on what the current restrictions are, and to make it to make our plans align with government regulations, government policies, particularly in this case out of the state of Hawaii. And plan accordingly. So first and foremost, there are no automatic payouts for this event, because for this trip, because SeneGence is actually taking the trip. The trip is happening, so there are no automatic payouts. I know that was a general question. Reg opens on April 12th. It closes on May 10th, and this is all in the email that we sent you. And then the cancellation deadline is actually before Reg closes. That's on May 4th. So let's talk about that. The travel restrictions for the state of Hawaii are what are particularly relevant to every single achiever and on-track achiever for SeneStar. We provided a link in the bottom of that email that takes you right to the website that shows what the state of Hawaii is implementing right now. And they actually have been doing this since last October. And you can click on there and find all the information. There's a really sweet little video that walks you through all of the steps in getting a COVID test, what the regulations are, and then how to upload your COVID negative test that must be taken within 72 hours of your flight to Hawaii. And then downloading an app that is kind of your traveler app that helps you by giving you a QR code that says you're clear to travel into Hawaii, and make it through once you land, that kind of thing. So that is in the link in the email. You'll want to go scroll down to the bottom where we talk about the trip policies, and the current Hawaii travel restrictions and protocols can be found here. And that is a live link. So take a look at that. Now, in the beginning of the email as well, we talk about what happens if we get right up to the trip and maybe Hawaii closes, for example, or the U.S. mainland is completely restricted. Canada is back to complete restrictions and lockdowns. There is a disclaimer there that if there are verified travel restrictions 1 week before SeneGence will pay out registered achievers in the cash value determined by SeneGence for the trip within 10 business days of the trip, following the trip dates. So let's talk about what that means for Australians in particular, and then we'll talk about Canadians as well. Australians, the current government policy out of actually Australia is they are prohibiting travel unless it's under very specific conditions outside of Australia. So we know that travel conditions are quite intense right now in Australia, and even if someone is approved to leave the country, that when they come back into the country, that there would be that 14-day quarantine at their own expense, at your own expense. So we understand that. We also understand that things may change. So again, we are setting the trip rules, and we're planning to take the trip based on current travel restrictions. And we don't know, there may be some additional things that open up across the board, across global, global countries that adjust over the next 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is, until between now and June. So I would say that if you are a 100% achiever, my suggestion would be to go ahead and register, because there really is no cost to you in doing that. If you have achieved at somewhere between 25 to 75% and you are based in Australia, I'm happy to hop on a call, hop on an email, walk you through what that looks like. But if it comes down to a payout and those travel restrictions are still in place that completely eliminate travel outside of your country, then the payout option will be made available to those who are registered for the trip. Now, again, we understand that some people that have achieved at 25 to 75%, because you do have to pay that difference at the time of registration. My suggestion would be to you to wait as late in the registration process as possible, because right when registration opens on April 12th, there's still basically about a month of registration time to continue to watch any travel policies and adjustments in regards to that. Let me just take a look at, well, I'll look at questions when we get to the end. Now, again, in regards to Australia, if you go to the link that we sent from the state of Hawaii, there are also only specifically approved countries to travel right now into Australia. And the US and Canada are listed as some of those approved, meaning approved COVID testing vendors and partners are located in those two countries. So Canadians and in the US, those are listed on the Hawaii website. You definitely want to make sure, and we'll talk about this as we get closer to the trip, only use those pre-approved by the state of Hawaii testing sites and testing vendors, because the state of Hawaii has partnered with specific people whose tests they will accept. Okay, so that's the latest on that, and I'll keep going, and like I said, at the end here, try to work through any of the remaining questions that are out there. Again, our stance right now is that we're taking the trip. We've made our rules and regulations to be coherent and cohesive to current travel restrictions, and it is anyone's guess when travel restrictions may either loosen more or tighten more. So we'll just always stay in contact and see what happens as we go. Now, you would need to make sure that you understand, and this is for people in the States, in Australia, in Canada, no matter where you're coming from, you would need to know your own state's or country's rules and regulations about if you do go to Hawaii and you are able to go and have the negative COVID test and travel there. Traveling back and getting back home is something you need to explore at the time as well, because different states, as we have all learned over the past year, specifically talking about the US, different states, each state's governor makes different mandates, and each city's mayor can then make different mandates under that. So you need to be aware of whether traveling back to your state from another state requires quarantine or requires an isolation period for you specifically. So be aware, this is all about, again, taking personal responsibility. Are you ready and able and willing to travel? Be ready to educate yourself. We're going to provide you with all of the information that we have at our fingertips, but be extremely resourceful about what affects you in particular. Vaccines have been a question that I've seen in the comments, and I know Joni mentioned on our Count Us and Above call last week. And right now, currently, the state of Hawaii is not requiring people to be vaccinated in order to travel into the state of Hawaii. Therefore, that's the rule and regulation that we're going under. If they change their mind between now and the trip, that is not a travel prohibitor. So if you decide that you do not, completely personal decision, personal responsibility, once again, if you decide that that's not for you, and you'll want to stay on top of that, and if you don't want the vaccine and decide to cancel, you'll want to do that by May 4th. If that is something that's implemented after that, that is the drop dead deadline for refunds. Because as you can see, we are securing space, we're moving forward with planning, we're buying the gifts. Once you register, we're going to start booking flights. So SeneGence does have to cover its expenses in this case, and we just need that commitment. So again, educate yourself and stay on top. Stay tuned into that State of Hawaii link that we sent you, because there is information updated there pretty much on a weekly basis, and we'll try to flag that again every time that we see something coming down the pike. So I hope that answers all of the questions in regards to payout, travel, deadlines, etc. Let me just take a quick pause here and check my text from Jill. Elise, I see you've asked about a COVID test. Yes, you have to. My understanding is that at this point, a vaccine isn't what they're looking for. They're looking for a negative COVID test. So we will be flying and traveling under current travel restrictions. So right now, that is negative COVID testing within 72 hours of your flight. Okay, so moving on. And let's go on to my next notes. Now, one of the things that we also linked into the email that we sent you is the buy-in flyer. You can see my notes on the back side. This has a lot of tiny font. So I highly suggest that you open this on a PC and look through that and do your best to take a look at the buy-in information that is there. Again, the reason we were asking the survey questions is because we were wondering how many people, first of all, are committed to come, or at least have it very much on their radar to attend. And that's achievers and their achieved guest, right? And then we also wanted to just kind of find out in regards to how many people are interested in bringing their family and doing the buy-in to bring other guests. So that's just going to really help us with our experience and trying to make sure that we have enough hotel rooms and space for everyone so that we can stick together during the trip. So what we have laid out on this brochure is based on the buy-in, based on percentage of achievement, all very clearly defined and laid out. Now the buy-ins and family pricing are right next to that. I want you to just be sure to read the fine print in that as well. Notice that those buy-ins for adults and children in this particular case means that these are sharing the room with you as an achiever, and each room does have a max capacity at this property, so you would only be able to fit in, I'm almost 100% sure it's 4, but we're just double checking that with the hotel, so we'll come back and comment. So that's sharing the room with the achiever. And it includes the flight, ground transportation, breakfast on Saturday through Wednesday, the welcome reception and dinner, and the farewell reception and dinner. Okay, so each achiever gets one hotel room, and if you want to bring some other family, the pricing is divided by age group, and then that small font underneath tells you what is included in that buy-in price. All right. Now let's talk about those who want to make arrangements on their own. For example, if you wanted to bring your kids and you didn't want to use the SeneGence buy-in pricing, you are welcome to bring them, have them stay in your room, but know this, then you'll be required to, it's your responsibility to book their flights. Then we are not, we're not able to include them in ground transportation. These are the kinds of things that come with the total package of the SeneGence experience. They wouldn't be allowed at any of the meals, including breakfast with you. You would need to find, during the welcome and the farewell babysitting services to watch them, so that, because they wouldn't be able to attend with you. So we tried to make that an option still, so that you could go ahead and bring children and have them enjoy the trip, but just know that they won't be a part of the SeneGence experience at all. And just kind of think about that as you're thinking through that, because it's going to be those awkward conversations, like, when our staff is at the welcome reception and they're welcoming everybody in, if you have your kids with you and you haven't opted in to buy them into the SeneGence package, then we're going to have to ask you to take them back to your hotel room, and it's just going to be really awkward. And I have seen some questions as well about, well, what if we want to bring or come along, or have people come along and they maybe get only this part of the experience or that part of the experience. Just think of it from a logistics standpoint, from a SeneGence standpoint. We have to lock in. We're locking in really package deals with all of our providers, with the hotel, getting the best rates possible, getting the best packages possible, having the best experiences possible. And if we piecemeal that out and let everybody opt in, maybe for a breakfast here or an experience there, it's just going to be a really awkward experience for everyone. Because again, we would have to ask you to, it would put us in a position of having to confront people here and there and asking them to send their kids back to their hotel room. So take a look at, there's two options. Either you're locked into the SeneGence experience or you're on your own with them. So now for achievers, you have the option to book your own flights. We do have that as an option this year as well, but note that you can book your own flight for you and your achieved guest. Just know though that $500 USD is the compensation back that you would get if you book your own. So that's $500 per flight. So if you take a look at flights right now out of the US to Hawaii, that might tell you whether that is a good decision. Also, if you book your own flights, then the travel services that we provide, which is like flight tracking, making sure you know whether your flight is on time or delayed, and if you have an issue with flight or you miss your flight, we take care of rebooking that. We greet you at the airport with our travel team, and they bring you to the hotel. If you choose to book your own flight, those are services that you do not get because it's all part of the SeneGence experience, and you're removing yourselves from that piece of it. So I hope that's very clear. Again, it's all in really tiny font. So you might put this on a PC and enlarge it. That's the best way to read it. Okay, I've had a few people also ask about travel days. Like, what if it takes 15 plus hours to travel? What we do is we book with typically a minimum of 4 hours 4 to 6 hours of landing to get to the welcome reception. We obviously adjust that if we need to an earlier time or an earlier date, depending on where you're from. So that's not really a question that I can answer individually per person right now. That's just going to depend on where in the world you're flying from. And once we get to that flight booking time and we take a look at the flights that are available and all of that kind of stuff, we'll make that type of decision. Now, arriving early and staying late will certainly be an option, but that's going to be dependent upon the hotel's availability. So in our registration portal that we've set up, there's going to be a space for you to make that request. You'll also be able to request additional rooms because, as we know, the buy-in option does not include an additional room. That's for all of the transportation and the meals and the activities. So if you're looking at bringing, 4 kids or a son or a daughter and their boyfriend, girlfriend kind of situation, whatever that is, cousins, whatever it is, you'll be able to request that. Now, additional rooms outside of our current block and additional nights on the front end and the back end of the trip are not guaranteed. They'll be based upon first come, first serve. We will do our best to fulfill all of that. And then, of course, if there's something that if we run out of rooms, then you'll be able to book directly with the hotel. I'm sure it will be a completely different rate than what we have secured, but we'll do our best to accommodate all of those requests, and there will be a space through the registration portal to request that information. Okay, and I think that's really all from me. I'm looking at here at my notes. Jill has been texting nonstop, so let me just tap into a couple of these. I need to learn how to do this so that I can watch your yes, you'll be able to book, you can go directly to the hotel and book rooms. Yep, you can book, I think I've answered most of these questions. Royalty experiences. We are actually still ironing some of those out. So those will be listed on the agenda, and when you go through the registration process, those will be listed on the agenda, so you know which days those are taking place. All of those take place around a meal opportunity as well. So, but we don't want to reveal all of those. We have a couple of them locked in, but we still have one that we need to finalize. And those will actually be something that we reveal much closer to the trip. But the royalty experiences are happening. Also, your achiever experience plus your guest includes an outing, like a day out, on SeneGence's dime as well. We do the breakfasts and all of the outings and experiences that we're doing. We're providing a meal as well, so we want to make sure that we're covering that. Flights booked through SeneGence. Yeah, so if you're coming in early and staying late, obviously what I will be doing with our travel team is we know what we're planning to, what an average flight should cost, say if you're coming from New York City, and you're asking for a completely different flight pattern, if you want to island hop, if you want to come in early, stay late, that's when we start taking a look at the tickets and the price difference, and if there is a massive price difference, then you're going to need to pull the weight on some of that. Otherwise, there is flexibility there, but once you start getting into multiple flights and multiple islands, you're going to need to cover that. But just coming into the island early and staying late, again, that should, for the most part, presumably, once we're starting to book flights, those should align with our budget and our pricing of what we were planning to spend on you anyway. But do know that if you come early and you stay late, depending on what that time frame looks like, if it's multiple days on both sides, that ground transportation isn't going to be available as well. Of course, we're gonna run that for just a couple of days, but we're not going to extend it for like another week out or something like that. So just kind of keep those realistic expectations. We're still negotiating some of these additional rooms, Jessica, at the hotel, anything outside of our block. So that's being finalized, and you'll see that in the registration portal once that's open. Yes, you can pay the difference to upgrade your flights, no problem. Some people use miles as well. So basically what we'll do is we'll book you in coach, and then you work directly with the airline that we've booked you on, and we pretty much always are able to choose your preferred airline because of the relationships that we have through our travel system and travel team. And then you can work directly with the airline to upgrade yourself, use miles to upgrade, whatever you want to do. Yep, so for royalty experiences, we are planning on the Achiever and their guest to attend. And that looks like most of the most pertinent questions. Again, a lot of this stuff is going to be answered. Some of the details will be answered once we launch registration as well. And we can let you know some of the additional rooms that are available and things like that. But I hope that answers most of the questions that that people have. I know, again, most of it was about a payout and the travel restrictions and things like that. So just remember, if we could control travel restrictions and if we had a say, we would certainly have an opinion towards that. But the best we can all do is follow government guidelines and the restrictions that have been put in place by the state of Hawaii to protect their residents there, and that's what we'll be following. So we'll keep you posted if anything changes. We're watching it all the time, and we cannot wait to see you there. It's going to be so fabulous. And I know some of you had also commented that you have some achievers in your teams that do not have access to this page, so we'll figure out a way to share this video and get this information out to everyone so that we can get some more of the questions answered and just ease everyone's minds in regards to whether or not they'll be joining us in Hawaii. So love you all so much. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the Big Island. Bye.